Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new Pokemon TCG video. What we have today is a Kyurem EX deck from the Ancient Origins set. However, this deck may look pretty familiar to you guys right away, and that's because it has the basic skeletal structure of Jacob Van Wagner's World Champion Masters winning deck. Now, the reason why I decided to make a relatively similar deck is because I feel like the Blastoise with the Deluge ability just plays such a huge role. I mean, the Kyurem EX is so energetically expensive. Let me actually show you guys exactly what I mean. It's really unfortunate. I mean, it could have had some potential if maybe all of its attacks were composed completely of double colorless energies. Then they could have been versatile, and we could have included them in a wide array of different types of decks. But the Glaciate attack requires specifically 2 water energy cards and then one energy card of our choice. So at the very least, it is going to take us a total of 3 energy attachments to get that going. And then of course there's also the Ice Caliber, which requires 4 energy cards. That's just insane. This Pokemon is not really competitively viable for the most part. I mean, I don't know why you guys would ever decide to run the Kyurem EX, but just for the sake of showcasing this card's abilities, I've decided to build a deck around it regardless. So, depending on the situation, we're either going to make use of the Glaciate attack, which allows us to hit for 30 damage to each of our opponent's Pokemon. So this can be nice for a bit of damage spread, just for some final knockouts of any of our opponent's Pokemon to retreat, for example. So Glaciate, not an attack that should be underestimated. And then there's also the Ice Caliber, 130 damage, and it also forces our opponent's active Pokemon to no longer be able to attack us during their next turn. Of course, if they retreat, that sort of lock is broken. But to top it off, if that attack wasn't energetically expensive enough, we have to discard an energy card attached to this Pokemon as well, just to be able to make use of that Ice Caliber attack. So just when you thought the Kyurem EX was bad enough, and you might have seen a little ray of hope for the Ice Caliber attack, we go right ahead and see that we are forced to discard an energy card attached to this Pokemon, so that ray of hope is almost immediately diminished. Luckily for us though, this deck does run a total of 4 copies of the Superior Energy Retrieval. And again, we have those Blastoises with the Deluge ability, which will pretty much make attaching energy cards a non-issue. So this is pretty much the most viable deck that I could have made out of the Kyurem EX. So let's actually discuss some of the remaining Pokemon in our deck. Suicune, you guys are quite familiar with what this bad boy is capable of. It prevents all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by any Pokemon EX. So this can make life a little bit difficult for our opponents. I have decided to run a single copy of that. Again, just a nice little Pokemon to include, so we are running just 1 copy of that. We're running a total of 2 copies of the Kyurem EX. It is both an alternative attacker to that Kyurem EX, and more importantly, it has the Russian ability, so this will allow us to switch in between our Pokemon, and hopefully when we are doing that, what we'd like to do is take advantage of the repeated healing from the Rough Sea Stadium card. So we are running a total of 3 copies of the Stadium card in our deck. Hopefully it pays off, because I mean, we have some pretty bulky, heavy, high HP Pokemon for the most part. I mean, respectively speaking about our Kyurem EXs, and of course that Kyurem EX does have a bulky 180 HP, so Rough Seas should be quite a helpful card to include in this type of deck. Now the remainder of our Pokemon are used solely to try and allow us to get those turn 1 Archie's Ace in the Hole. So first of all, let's actually take a quick look at Archie's Ace in the Hole, in case you guys have not seen this card before. So this card can only be played when it happens to be the very last card in our hand, so that makes it a bit tricky. However, it has a fantastic ability, which, it has a fantastic effect, which allows us to put a water Pokemon from our discard pile. Again, a water Pokemon being the keyword, so there's no sort of restriction. So that's actually how we're going to bring those Blastoises out from that discard pile and then load them up in our bench. And simultaneously, it allows us to draw until we have 5 cards in our hand. So Archie's Ace in the Hole just plays a huge part in our deck. We will be running a total of 2 copies of that in our deck, just in case one happens to be prized. And it's also nice to have a bit of variability in that we can sometimes send those Archie's Ace in the Holes in that discard pile, also keep one in our deck, so then we have 2 different ways of grabbing them out. One of those ways is through the usage of the Jirachi EX, which can allow us to go ahead and grab out the Archie's Ace in the Hole from our deck and then put it right in our hand. And then the other way, of course, is through the usage of the VS Seeker, definitely a card that you guys are familiar with. Allows us to put any one supporter card from our discard pile into that hand. So VS Seeker is just a really nice and important card. We are running a total of 4 copies of that. Of course, the Executes, it has the propagation ability, allows us to put it back from our discard pile and then put it into our hand. Again, this plays a tremendous role in that whenever we want to trim down our hand and get the ideal number of cards in our hand, Execute will help us, and we can just propagate our strategy much more efficiently, and ironically enough, its ability is called Propagation. The very last Pokemon that we have in our deck, which may seem like a bit of an odd inclusion, is the Shaman EX. Now essentially what we're going to be doing with Shaman EX is we're going to try and increase our hand with, of course, bringing out that Shaman EX, and then simultaneously go right ahead and decrease our hand. I know it seems like a bit of an unorthodox method, and it is for the most part, but it works pretty well for the most part. So we are running 2 copies of that Shaman EX. Now, the Acrobikes and the Trainer's Mail are going to be some of the more common ways in which we will be repeatedly shuffling and going through our cards until we do get something we can play and something that is viable. So those are pretty important cards. We are running 4 copies of each. 4 Battle Compressors. And ideally, what we'd like to send in our discard pile are, of course, the Blastoises and the Execute, but depending on the situation, depending on how we're going to grab out that Archie stays in the hole, we may or may not actually battle compress them into that discard pile. Alternatively, we can also battle compress some energy cards into that discard pile, then use that superior energy retrieval to go right ahead, fetch them out, and then latch them on to our Pokemon. So battle compressor is a pretty nice card. We are running 4 copies of that just for the sake of consistency. I know it seems a bit on the overkill side, but believe me, it tends to work well that way. The computer search, again, you guys are quite familiar with what this card is capable of. 4 Ultra Balls allows us to simultaneously trim down our hand and, of course, look for any single one of our Pokemon in our deck. The Archie stays in the hole, of course, you guys know what this card is capable of. The Lysander, which will allow us to lure out any one of our opponent's bench Pokemon. We're only running a single copy of that. We want to try and minimize the number of supporter cards, so we're only running a total of 3 draw supporters. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but believe me, it's for the best, because I mean, if we're running a whole lot of draw supporters, then it becomes quite difficult for us to discard them, right? In case we want to make use of the Archie stays at all. These supporters can definitely be huge liabilities a lot of times. Don't get me wrong, they can absolutely be helpful as well. But ideally, we would like to try and get the turn 1 Archie stays in the hole. We have a total of 2 Float Stones, which we ideally like to attach on to that Keldeo EX, and then we can go right ahead and successfully retreat in between our Pokemon. So that we only need a single copy of the Keldeo EX. So Float Stone is definitely a nice card to have. And the very last portion of our deck is just composed of 10 water energy cards. So with that, we're gonna go and find ourselves an opponent, guys. I've been playing around with this deck here and there. It seems to perform quite well. But the one thing is that we may need to increase the number of water energy cards. I'm not entirely convinced whether or not we should, but maybe running 11 might be ideal, which is surprisingly very similar to that of Jacob's number of energy cards. I decided to run 10 though, just because I wanted to include some different cards, the Float Stones. I'm actually running 3 Rough Sea Stadium cards as opposed to the 2 that we did see Jacob running, just because those Kyurem EXs are not one-hit knockout Pokemon, so chances are that our battles are going to be a little bit more prolonged, but that Ice Caliber attack can definitely be useful just in terms of slowing down the opponent's deck tremendously. So let's see which one of us are going to be able to start off first. Alright, we see a heads, and looks like our opponent's going to be able to choose. Of course, they're going to go first themselves. So we have the Jirachi EX as our starting Pokemon. That's not good, because the entire purpose of Jirachi EX in our deck is to function as a card that will allow us to grab onto that Archie stays in the hole. So if we have it as our starting Pokemon, I'm really hoping that we have at least another one in our deck. And let me just tell our opponent, not exactly. So it's definitely not the Archie's Blastoise that we saw. It has my own little twist on it, and of course the main attacker of my deck. I'd like it to be that sorry, what's it called? The Kyurem EX. There we go. So I know it's quite similar. So maybe our opponent is probably thinking, oh, this guy has no creativity at all. But believe me, I do try and pump out some pretty awesome and unique types of decks whenever possible. And we're actually not going to see any energy cards. Alright, so let's see. I definitely want a Battle Compressor, so I'm gonna start off by laying down the Kyurem. No, let's actually go and lay that down and attach a Water Energy card onto it as well. Actually, I think I'd like to send that Water Energy card and the Execute onto our discard pile for the time being. Let's actually take a look at the remainder of our deck. Alright, so we definitely do have that Jirachi EX, and we have the Suicune as well. Let's see, I'm not entirely sure what I'd like to grab into. Maybe the Kyurem EX. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm gonna go right ahead and grab onto a Kyurem EX. Let's go and lay that down into our bench. Let's go and lay down that Shaman EX. Draw until we have up to 6 cards in our hand. Okay, so I'm definitely gonna attach that Floatstone on to that Caldeo EX. And if I can somehow get some more water, sorry, the Archie's Ace in the hole in our discard pile, I can definitely make the strategy work. So let's go and use that Superior Energy Retrieval, get rid of 2 water energy cards, draw onto 1 ourselves, attach that to that Kyurem EX. Let's go and lay down that Shaman EX, draw until we have 6 cards in our hand. Trainer's Mail, please, let's make something happen. And no, unfortunately, I don't think we can. But I will at the very least get the Archie's Ace in the hole and some Blastoises in that discard pile. So let us go right ahead, use the Battle Compressor, again, just a very, very important card in our deck. And I'll just reply to our opponent in just a minute, but I do want to get some of these cards in that discard pile. So let me take a look. Do we how many Archie's Ace in the holes do we have in our deck? So currently that's 1. Just okay, so we actually have 2. Alright, so this should work out pretty nicely. And unfortunately, that's gonna have to be it. That Archie X can definitely lose its life. Let's actually rush in with that Caldeo EX, lay down the Rough Sea Stadium card, and then end the turn. And alright, so I hope you enjoyed them. It's always difficult for me to talk. I hope enjoy them. It's definitely difficult for me to talk again whenever I do have the mic placed right on top of my keyboards, but there's not a whole lot I can do about it. And I mean, I'm sure our opponent does see that Kyurem EX, so he probably has a relatively good idea that my deck is probably quite similar. I mean, he could almost immediately tell. But again, Kyurem EX is intended to be the main attacker of our deck, so we'll see how things go, guys. Not exactly the greatest start. Unfortunately, I was not able to pull out a turn 1 Archie's Ace in the hole. Had I Battle Compressor earlier, maybe I could have made it work. Okay, so just an interesting little conversation here. Anyways, let's see if our opponent will be able to attack. I mean, we hadn't seen any energy cards during his last turn, and I'm sure with his computer search, he probably grabbed onto some sort of draw supporter, or at least something that he could effectively use during this turn. Looks like it is going to be an N, and yeah, so this should definitely allow us to pull off that Archie's Ace in the hole during our next turn. It's really unfortunate though, our bench is just laden with all of these EX Pokemon. Very, very easy to knock out. We do see Donphan finally make its appearance, but our opponent's actually not going to be able to attack just yet. Alright, so let's see. So first of all, we definitely want to get that N in that discard pile. So let me see, how many water energy cards do we have in our discard pile? A total of 2 water energy cards. So let's actually start off with the Ultra Ball, get rid of that N, and the Superior Energy Retrieval. I think I'm actually not going to grab onto any Pokemon just yet. I have the Battle Compressor again. I can get rid of something relatively useless and send it right in our discard pile. I think I'm going to go for the second. I believe we have 1 more Blastoise in our deck, guys. Let me just take a quick look. Okay, no, it looks like we probably don't. And yeah, it looks like we actually don't. So I guess I'm going to go and temporarily send out the Battle Compressor into that discard pile. Let's go and actually attach a water energy card onto that Kyurem EX. I'm going to go and use our Pokemon's abilities, so let's go and propagate that Execute into our hand. Use the Computer Search, get rid of 2 cards in our hand, and I think I'd like to grab onto the Archie's Ace in the hole. Definitely don't want to lay down an additional Jirachi EX. Again, they're just a huge liability right now. Let's go and grab onto that Blastoise, and we should be able to start dishing out some damage. All I need is 1 more water energy card. Awesome, looks like we are going to get one. Let's go and use the Acrobike one more time. 1 more Acrobike. We're definitely going through our deck very, very quickly right now, guys. And 1 more water energy card. Alright, so we'll be able to knock out that Fanfi in a single attack. I'm gonna go and, well, actually, I could pick off our opponent's Robo Substitutes as well. Well, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna go and pick off that Fanfi first before it does evolve into the Donphan. So it just seems like I'm lagging a little bit here, guys. Alright, there we go. Let's go right ahead. Retreat that Caldeo EX. Bring out that Kyurem Ice Caliber for 260 damage. Definitely overkill right there. But of course, it makes sense given the fact that the Donphan does have the water weakness. So, do I actually have the Lysander in the discard pile? No, it looks like I don't. So it could actually pay off if I Lysander it in there. But we are going to see that Hawlucha make its appearance. It's unfortunate. I would have liked to have 1 more Kyurem EX on our bench if possible, just so that I can successfully switch in between them. We are going to see that Donphan finally make its appearance. It's going to hit our Kyurem EX for exactly 60 damage. Not a whole lot. Should be able to survive another attack. And alright, so let's go and heal off the bulk of the damage. And a water energy card. I guess I'm gonna hold off on that for now, guys. Again, there's no real sort of rush for me to attach it just yet. So let's go and use the. Actually, yeah, we do see that Mr. Mime. Oh, okay, I definitely want to get rid of that Mr. Mime. Yeah, well, it's unfortunate though I can't just yet, so that's definitely going to slow us down. Let's go and use Glaciate. It's only going to hit for 30 damage, but at the very least, it doesn't force me to discard any of our water energy cards into that discard pile. So, I mean that Donphan is slowly going to hit us for damage, but should be able to heal off the bulk of it through the repeated usage of the Rough Seas Stadium card. So we're going to see a Hawlucha, a VS Seeker, possibly the N. I'm hoping we actually see an N. I feel like it can give us a better hand. No, looks like instead it's going to be the Karina. So let's see what our opponent decides to look for. Alright, looks like it's going to be a Donphan, possibly the Professor's Letter as well, in case our opponent is gearing his Donphan up for a one-hit knockout. No, looks like he's not. It's going to be a Focus Sash. So those Donphans are immune to our one-hit knockouts, but still they're definitely not immune to those Glaciates, and I definitely want to get rid of that Mr. Mime, guys. Definitely going to cause us a lot of trouble. Alright, so let's go and heal that Kyurem EX. I'm gonna go and attach a water energy card to it, and then let's go right ahead and Lysander it out and use the Ice Caliber, 130 damage, and take one more prize card. Okay, so how many water energy cards do we have in our discard pile? So that is 2, 3, 4. We should still have 2 more superior energy retrievals. One possibly might be prized, but we should at the very least have one more in our deck. So we're gonna see that Fighting Stadium, and we're gonna see that N trimming down the number of cards in our hand. So let's hope that the Kyurem EX is able to survive an attack. I think it should. Currently our opponent's Donphan can hit us for 80 damage. Yeah, so still falling a little bit short from the one-hit knockout range. So let us go and bring that Rough Seas, heal a bit of the damage. Trainer's Mail. I have the Rough Seas and the VS Seeker. I mean, I could Lysander out one of our opponent's Pokemon, but instead I think I'd like to knock out all of those Robo Substitutes, guys. So I guess let's go and temporarily look for that VS Seeker. It may just come in handy. I don't think there's anything I'd like to Battle Compressor just yet. So let us go and use that. Actually, our Blastoise may get eventually Lysandered out. So I guess temporarily I'm going to go and attach a Water Energy card onto that Keldeo EX. So let's go and use Glaciate, knock out those Robo Substitutes. We're still in the lead, so things shouldn't be too bad. And at this point, I mean, that Focus Sash is pretty much useless because we've already inflicted a bit of damage on our opponent's Pokemon, and then we can go right ahead for that one-hit knockout. I believe those are all the Robo Substitutes that our opponent is running. Let me just take a look. So that is 1 out 3, so he still might have one more in his deck, unless of course it happens to be prized. We're gonna see that revive Mr. Mime. We just worked so hard to get rid of it, and it's gonna rear its head one more time. Unfortunately, Kyurem EX is definitely gonna be losing its life during this turn. So do we have a Juniper in our deck? No, sorry, we don't actually have one in our discard pile, but I can definitely use the Battle Compressor to get one in that discard pile. So shouldn't be too troubling for us. We have the Suicune as well, which would be actually pretty nice Pokemon, just because it would only give our opponent a single prize card. And looks like I was right in attaching that Water Energy card onto that Keldeo EX. Looks like our Blastoise is indeed going to get Lysander. We're going to see that wreck. It's going to get both rid of the Stadium card and, of course, that Blastoise EX. So let's go and temporarily bring out this Kyurem EX. Let's see if we can make something work, guys. So I'm going to go and use that Trainer's Mail, Superior Energy Retrieval. Let's see. Yes, yeah. So we can definitely. Actually, can I? I don't know. Actually, I don't think I can. VS Seeker, Battle Compressor. No. Actually, I don't think I can actually bring out an additional. Sorry, Blastoise during this turn, guys. Yeah, definitely can't, because I mean I have way too many Water Energy cards in that discard pile, so it's pretty much a no-go. But I'm gonna go and use the Executes with the Propagation ability, guys, so I don't have to give up anything useful from my hand. Well, I guess we should send that Blastoise in the discard pile. Actually, it's pretty useless in our hand, so maybe I shouldn't have propagated to Executes, but that's okay. We have a bit of room for mistakes. I mean, because we still have a pretty fantastic advantage against our opponent right now. So I guess I'm gonna go and attach a Water Energy card on that Kyurem EX, and I could use the N, the Lysander as well. I think I'm gonna hold off on getting rid of that Mr. Mime. I feel like taking care of this Donphan should be our priority. So let's go right ahead. Use Ice Caliber, 260 damage, and that will allow us to snatch up a prize card. So. I don't think we can make another Archie's Ace in the hole work all that quickly. Our opponent is definitely catching up, though. I mean, he has 5 prize cards remaining, but that Kyurem EX is definitely within the one-hit knockout range of that Donphan. All he needs is a Fighting Stadium card or another Strong Energy. So how many Strong Energies do we see in that discard pile? So that is 1 Strong Energy, and we only see a single. Well, he already has the Focus Sash, so he definitely can't Okay, so we're gonna see double Colorless Energy. So it looks like that Kyurem EX may actually be able to survive an attack, guys, which is absolutely something fantastic for me. So Kyurem EX is actually performing quite well in this deck. I definitely do like the fact that it spread all of those damage counters, and because that makes our life a little bit easier. Otherwise, that Focus Sash would have prevented us from getting a one-hit knockout on our opponent's Pokemon. So we are gonna see that Silent Lab. So that's gonna mean that the Executes no longer have their propagation ability. And of course, any of our remaining Shaman EXs and Jirachi EXs in our deck, but I believe we only have a Jirachi EX in our deck remaining, so that's okay. We can definitely work with this. We are going to see that Hawlucha make its appearance one more time. I think at this point I'd like to start loading up that Keldeo EX, guys. So let us go and attach a Water Energy card on to him. And we do have the Lysander in our discard pile, right? I just want to make sure. Oh, actually, sorry, let me actually undo that because I do want to knock out the opponent's Donphan. Unfortunately, that Kyurem EX only hits for 60 damage, even with the water resistance. I'm going to have to go and attach a Water Energy card onto him. Let us go use that Lysander and get rid of the opponent's Donphan. So this should hopefully allow us to stall for a little bit of time. Let us go use Ice Caliber, 260 damage one more time, allowing us to take one more prize card. So, again, how many VS Seekers do we have remaining? So let me take a look. So that is 2 VS Seekers we've already used. 2 VS Seekers, alright, so it's definitely possible for us to pull out another Archie's Ace in the hole if we want to. But we have 10 cards in our deck remaining. Our opponent actually has only 10 cards remaining in his deck, so we are getting actually kind of close to decking out. So we definitely do have to be careful from here on out. We are going to see that VS Seeker. An N would be nice. Okay, it looks like it's going to be the Karina. I was actually kind of hoping for an N because anything to increase the probability of us trying to get that turn, definitely not turn 1, but just trying to get that Archie's Ace in the hole. So we're going to see that Karina, definitely going to see an additional Donphan, I think, make its appearance. Possibly a Robo Substitute as well. Alright, so we're going to see that Robo Substitute and the Strong Energy so that Fanfi can knock out that Kyurem EX. And of course, it's going to evolve into the big bad Donphan. So we still definitely have the advantage, but it's starting to look like a bit of a close game. Again, that Blastoise is just a huge part of our deck, so let's see if we can make things work without it. So I guess I'm going to go and temporarily bring out the Keldeo EX as our active Pokemon. And okay, so maybe we could have pulled off that turn, maybe we could have pulled off that Archie's Ace in the hole, but I mean, it is, of course, we have the Silent Lab at play, so we definitely can't make use of that Jirachi EX. So I guess I'm going to go and temporarily bring out the Kyurem EX. Let's go and retreat that Keldeo EX to bring out the Kyurem EX. I'm going to go and attach a Water Energy card on to that Keldeo EX. And I guess that's going to have to be it for now. So I'm going to have to go and end the turn, guys. So if our opponent wants to attack with his Donphan, he's going to have to go and get rid of that Robo Substitute himself. So let's see if he decides to do that. I really need a VS Seeker. I want to get rid of that Donphan, and our Keldeo EX can definitely do a very effective job at that with the Secret Sword attack, hitting for essentially 220 damage, as long as, of course, I can attach one more Water Energy card onto it. So as you guys can see, as soon as that Blastoise is knocked out, our deck just tremendously slows down. So we're going to see that Robo Substitute in play still. So I'm going to go and attach a Water Energy card on to that Keldeo EX. And if our opponent doesn't want to attack, you know what? We're not going to attack either. I don't want our Keldeo EX to take a whole lot of damage. Actually, I can't even... Well, I could retreat if I attach the Float Stone. But that Donphan can inflict quite a bit of damage on to that Keldeo EX. So you know what, I'm actually going to hold off for now, guys. I want to see our opponent get rid of that Robo Substitute himself. So let's see whether or not he does do that. We're going to see Silver Bangle getting latched on to that Hawlucha and a Fighting Energy. So all of our opponent's Pokemon are pretty much loaded up and ready to go for the most part. Luckily for us, we don't see any more Focus Sashes. And again, he's going to restrain himself from attacking us. So I mean, I'm going to go and make use of the Superior Energy Retrieval. So let's go right ahead and use that, get rid of the Execute. At this point, we don't have a whole lot of cards remaining in our deck, so I think we can go right ahead and safely get rid of the Battle Compressor. Let's go and draw onto 4 Water Energy cards, and then I'm going to go and attach one to that Kyurem EX and end the turn. So I mean, I'm sure our opponent obviously doesn't know that we have a Float Stone in our hand, and he's probably quite aware that the Silent Lab is preventing that Keldeo EX from effectively rushing in and out. So let's see if he decides to pick up the slack and start to try and go for those big one-hit knockouts. Again, our Jirachi EX and the Shaman EXs are really easy targets that our opponent could potentially pick off. Have we actually seen any Lysanders yet? So we have seen 2 Lysanders actually. Okay, so our opponent probably has used all of his Lysanders and 2 VS Seekers as well. So maybe he's not running any more in his deck. which would definitely be something nice, because I mean, at this point again, it is starting to look like a very tight game. So let's see again. Our opponent is definitely thinking right now. Does he want to get rid of the Kyurem EX? Man, do we have any more Rough Sea Stadium cards, guys? Okay, looks like our opponent is inactive. Let me just take a quick look. So that's 1, 2 Rough Seas, and yes, we should hopefully still have one in our deck. But I don't want to use that Ultra Ball just yet, guys. I'm gonna hold off on that for the time being. So let us see what our opponent decides to do. Had I a Blastoise though, this would definitely not be an issue. I would immediately start picking off our opponent's Pokemon, but if I do have the VS Seeker, I may just opt to go for the Lysander instead, because I mean, once I get rid of that Donphan, I feel like we can pretty much then go on to a relatively smooth victory. So we're seeing all those fighting energy cards latched across all of those Hawluchas, and of course the Donphan as well. The Kyurem EX still needs 2 more water energy cards again, which is really unfortunate. This is precisely why it's not all that viable of a card. We're going to see that VS Seeker, a Lysander. Looks like our opponent is finally going to start making his move. I believe that's the last Lysander he has though, so I mean, I'm definitely banking and hoping that that's the case, guys, because otherwise we may just lose the game. So let's see what Pokemon our opponent decides to bring out. Looks like it's going to be that Hawlucha can hit for exactly 110 damage. Should he decide to knock out one of those Shaman EXs, of course, could also Lysander out that Drachi EX. If our opponent's feeling a little bit gutsy, he can go and bring out that Keldeo EX as sort of a preemptive strike. So we're going to see that Lysander. Looks like it is going to be that Keldeo EX. Alright, so our opponent definitely cranking up the pressure on us. So, Trainer's Mail. I mean, if I use an Archie's Ace in the hole, I'm only going to have 1 card remaining in our deck, guys. So that can definitely be risky. So let us actually take a look at that. Okay, we have Rough Seas. No, but then I would lose the game. Yeah, so I mean, I'm just going to go right ahead and lay down the Rough Sea Stadium card, guys. So let us actually go and bring that out. Heal a bit of the damage from that Keldeo EX. So at least now we're actually know that Donphan can still knock us out in a single attack. So I don't know. It's starting to look like a very close game. Let's go and use, I guess, that Secret Sword. I could retreat and bring out the Kyurem EX. But I guess I'm gonna go for the attack. So let's go and use that Secret Sword, 110 damage, and then draw onto a prize card. I wish I had more cards remaining in our deck, guys. Then I could have definitely made use of an Archie's Blastoise, but again, at this point, it's starting to look dangerously close. Our opponent even has the Bunnelby. Okay, so it looks like he's actually going to deck himself out. So I'm going to go and say GG. I mean, there's no way that he can win the game now. But I'm pretty sure we had the victory for the most part, because he could not have knocked out our Kyurem EX in a single attack, and then we should have been able to knock out the vast majority of the remaining Pokemon our opponent had. It doesn't even look like he was able to knock out our Keldeo EX. Alright, so this was an excellent game, and it does look like that is going to be it. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys can make a better Kyurem EX deck than I could, but unfortunately it's just not that great of a Pokemon. We were able to dish out a whole ton of damage, so 1340, and our opponent was only able to dish out a total of 690 damage. Our biggest attack 260, definitely again because we did have that water weakness, and the MVP surprisingly Kyurem EX. That is actually a bit surprising to me. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to check out those annotations from my previous video and a random video as well. If you haven't subscribed to my channel just yet, please be sure to do so in case you would like to watch my newest videos. And yeah, so that is going to be it. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.